Hi everyone, this is a short screencast for Independent Colleges Dublin for CIMA E2 for November 2014. And in this particular screencast, we're going to be looking at project control and project control processes for a project manager. The requirement itself simply asks us to detail the actions required to ensure effective project control. The scenario itself not overly important, apart from the fact that it sort of emphasizes the need for the PM, the project manager, to take a proactive approach. So in terms of the answer, what we'll see is that to a large extent, as you flow down, you'll see a certain amount of, or indeed quite a lot of repetition. Repetition of key phrases and a sort of a reference back to time, cost, and quality and scope. Okay. So first paragraph here, quite a broad point. Obviously, it's important that the project is kept on track and indeed checked at regular intervals. That's effectively saying that control is important, nothing more than that. Now, in terms of the breakdown, they provide a breakdown in terms of sort of key headings. First one here is just an overall sort of a little bit of information on planning generally. And in terms of planning for a project, obviously what we're trying to do is to establish some sort of baseline plan or indeed set of targets to which we can adhere to or check on as the project develops. They mention our sort of triangle here, as it were, time, sort of budget, and indeed resources, or you might include quality there. Okay, so the setup really is that we need a plan, because that will keep us on track, given that we'll be checking it on a regular basis. Now, what they do within this answer is that they break the plan down into three, sort of in line with what we've said above. So first element of the plan is a resource plan, and really what we're looking to do is to manage scarce resources, or indeed limited resources. Obviously, it's important that the resource plan is feasible, that we can afford it, and that we can deal with the peaks and troughs in terms of purchasing. The time plan, obviously you would expect to have that in any sort of project plan, and really what we're doing there is listing the activities, establishing when we're going to finish them, how long they're going to take, and indeed milestone dates, finish dates. The essence of that is that the key or the critical activities are monitored carefully. Okay. The cost plan, really we're referring there to sort of product breakdowns and indeed the cost of purchases from the first plan above, the resource plan. Really what we're trying to do within the cost plan, as you'd expect, is to ensure that we control our expenditure in some way, shape or form. Okay, so outside of this first area of really quite general points, what is it we're trying to do? Well, we need a plan, we need a target. We're going to split that down into three areas, and we're going to monitor it. Outside of that, what they then talk about is really the activities themselves. Okay. Now, in terms of this repetition that I mentioned, you'll see that throughout these next few paragraphs. In particular, what we have here is a need to monitor progress against the plans that we've described above on a regular and a timely basis. Okay. Now, as I say, you're going to see that phrase made in a multitude of different ways, virtually in every other paragraph. So I think key point here in terms of planning, or indeed planning for a project manager, is just this idea again of regular checking of actual progress against budgeted progress across the three areas of time, budget, and indeed resources. Okay, you'll see here, as I've just said, is that they talk about continual measurement of activities when they've started and completed, how long, how much money has been spent, etc. Okay, now this next paragraph is just really more of the same, to be honest with you. The heading is analyzing sort of current with plan, and essentially what we're talking about there, as mentioned above, is variances. Now, where we do have variances between the budget and the actual performance, what they're looking for us to do is to mention that obviously these will be reported in some way to the project board. The project board are concerned with the overall success of the project, but in particular they're concerned with the project adhering to that sort of baseline plan or indeed targets across, cost, indeed scope and time. Okay, so assuming that we've identified perhaps some variances, what do we need to do? Well, what the project manager needs to do is really to correct or to take some sort of corrective action to get the project back on track, obviously having reported the deviation in some way, shape or form. Okay, further reference here to the possibility of trade-off between cost, time and scope in terms of these variances above, and it may well be that some can be easily dealt with, it may well be that others can't. There may be, for example, a trade-off between time and cost, or indeed perhaps time and resources, or indeed affordability of resources. Okay, moving on from that, really sort of last point here is outside of this sort of loop that we're talking about of budget or budgeted plan, monitoring it, looking for variances and indeed, corrective action. What they talk about here really is just keeping people informed. So in other words, that if there is some form of revision to the budget or perhaps revision to the time plan or revision to the schedule, then it's important that in terms of this control area, that all stakeholders are kept up to date and that they are informed of any changes. That will avoid this issue of sort of wasted time and effort on anyone's part or any of the individuals concerned with the project itself. Okay, so that's just a short overview on control and project control, and indeed how important it is and how it's done for a project manager. Quite a few of the points that have been made there, this idea of the iron triangle and the control loop, could probably be made in quite a few different project management questions. So just bear in mind the idea that we obviously have some sort of baseline plan. We have targets in terms of our triangle. We're looking to monitor activities, monitor the use of resources and indeed the use of project funds against those activities and against performance. Take corrective action, revariances where necessary, and indeed inform everybody of the project, of the progress of the project, and indeed any corrective action that's been taken. Okay, many thanks for listening and good luck with your studies.